Ew. What's up, everyone? Secret Restaurant here. Welcome to the Nate Hoyle podcast. What's going on? It's Monday again, just like it was last week, and had a pretty busy weekend again. I was in South Bend again, and then I came back Sunday afternoon rather, because I had concert tickets to see the rock and roll blues group G Love and Special Sauce in Davenport at the Redstone Room. This is my second time seeing them, and I gotta say, 2 for 2 for them. They probably put on one of the funnest shows I've seen, honestly. If you guys have not been to the Redstone Room, just to describe the setup, it's not a huge venue, and it's actually got tables and stuff. So when you walk in the door, it's like the stage is up front, and then if you go left, there's like a standing area, dance floor part, and then there's the bar and a ton of tables. And so I couldn't see everybody at the venue because it was dimly lit or whatever, but I was standing kind of to the right of the stage, and when I looked out across the crowd, especially the standing people, literally no one was having a bad time, man. Like, it was so much fun. And honestly, like, the crowd there was probably a little bit, I mean, they were older than me, probably generally. So I think that in itself is even a feat. It's easy to go to, like, a show and you see a bunch of people in their 20s who are, like, dancing, having fun. Like, that's a lot of shows. More than I could list. You can go to a show and see that. But, like, to go to a show and see, like, people older than me in their 40s, 50s, and all of them are out there, all of them are having a good time, that's, like, a testament, I think, to music being long-lasting and just a certain ability that probably a lot of artists don't really have, especially as they get older in their careers, 30 years into their career or whatnot. So yeah, G Love and Special Sauce, they kind of had their breakout. I believe they just had the 30-year anniversary of their debut, which was on a major label. And I know I keep on saying Grace, Grace, Grace over and over, but I do think for me, the self-titled G Love and Special Sauce album, their debut, for me is probably one of my favorite debuts ever recorded. I think it's one of the best debuts ever recorded. And then, yeah, they were doing the major label thing, and then they must have switched to independent eventually. But their career has kind of been long-lasting, ongoing all this time, 31 years later since 1994. So definitely true road warriors, true artists. It's a blues band, I would say, more than a rock band, but they really have kind of gritty guitar riffs, noisy guitars, 3-piece with a standing bass, and then drums, and then vocals and guitar, and a whole lot of harmonica. But yeah, I've listened to them since I was a kid, just from family members liking their stuff. And I would say to recommend albums, definitely the debut. That's one that's got like classics on it, pretty highly played songs that have been in films and commercials, and then are also just pretty well known. And then I would probably go with Yeah, It's That Easy. I think that was maybe their 4th album or so, 3rd, 4th, 5th, in that area. But one of the kind of sleeper hits for me is an album that came out in 2015, and it's called Sugar. And honestly, for me, that was like my road trip album for a long time. Like, just when you put in the disc, the first thing that happens is back when we played CD. My car didn't have a MP3 hookup or anything in 2015, or even until like 2024, honestly. So I had to play CDs and stuff a lot. But you put the disc in, hit the highway, and then the first notes from that thing is like a blues guitar with like a heavy harmonica note. It's like perfect. If you play that album on the road a couple times, you're gonna really get to know it, really get to appreciate it a lot. So that one's called Sugar, 2015 G Love and Special Sauce. Yeah, speaking of which, because South Bend is 4 hours from Davenport, so I was in the car for 8 hours at least over the weekend, or since Thursday to Sunday or whatever. So I did listen to a lot of albums, speaking of which, not G Love, but I was spinning some other stuff. that Turnstile, the new Turnstile album is so funny to me. Like, when I watch videos of them playing it live, I can't remember what it's called. This one came out this year, i.e. 2025. But when I watch them play it live, it's like a completely different song, almost. When you play the recordings, the studio recordings, it's like so unbelievably tame. And I think they sound good. I've listened to that album maybe 3 times, honestly. I'm enjoying it. I'm playing it multiple times. I think I'm just kind of like baffled by it. And I wonder if maybe if they didn't label it as a hardcore band, maybe I just wouldn't even really think of it at all. But I kind of feel like maybe this is what they were trying to do. Maybe this is a testament to how skillful the album was created. But it's almost like they did everything that like a hardcore punk fan would be afraid for a punk band to do. Like their vocals are produced, very clean guitars and production, and sometimes they even are using these sweet little synths in the melodies that will later be picked up by the electric guitar and stuff. The album's undeniably catchy, and it's fun to put on. I just wonder, like, I don't know, like, if I don't want all punk to go in that way, and it probably will, because I feel like Turnstile is about to make a shitload of money with this album. And there's also something happening, like I mentioned, the vocals are very produced. Sometimes they almost seem auto-tuned, or at the very least they have effects on them. And then, like, there's the synth parts, and so this album, obviously music recording now is different than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever. Sometimes I just feel like when I listen to new music, especially stuff that's clearly been recorded through like MIDIs or through like computer-based recording things and not any analog at all, I feel like I can already hear it becoming dated. And I mean, if you think I'm crazy or whatever, just listen to albums in the 80s. Listen to pop albums in the 80s. And like there are some that sound great, but there are a whole lot of them, more of them, that like these sound like the 80s. And that's because of the production, that's because of what they were doing while recording. And I personally, maybe I'm just being grumpy and old and stuff, but I think I'm kind of tired of like the overly produced, like pitch corrected, auto-tuned, plug your guitar straight up into the computer. I'm kind of tired of that sound, and I'm hoping that we start to see a turnaround of something different that's popular at the very least. Also, listen to the Little Sims new album that came out either this month or very late last month, and really loved it. Obviously, she is a expert lyricist, expert rhymer, and she's always had bars or whatever. But I think the songwriting, specifically in this new set of songs, this new album, the songwriting concepts were really good, but also I loved how kind of weird she got with her melodies and how weird she got with her hooks. It's very, I mean, just listen to the opening track, Thief, and listen to the hook on that. It's so sinister and kind of unexpected. Because, you know, she could obviously write, like, a song that they would want to play as, like, a walkout song. But she chose not to do that. Instead, she's doing something more focused in its sounds and styles and melodies and stuff, while also continuing to show us that she's definitely one of the greatest living writers in the rap genre, for sure. Speaking of walkout songs, though, I went to yet another baseball game, this one in South Bend, which I posted pictures of on my Instagram, but I'd been wanting to go to that stadium for a while, so Ariel and I went on Friday, I think Friday, right before it turned into like a 90-degree hellhole across the rest of the weekend. So yeah, the South Bend Cubs are in the same division as the Quad City River Bandits, and they are an affiliate of the Cubs. There are two teams ahead of the South Bend Cubs before you get to the Chicago Cubs, the Chicago Cubs. So it's like South Bend Cubs, and then it goes, I think, to a team in Tennessee called the Smokies. Might be wrong, but then it's like Iowa Cubs. And Iowa Cubs is the ones that you always hear about when you're watching the Cubs, where it's like if a player gets hurt or if they just get sent down, they get sent down to Iowa. They get sent down to the Iowa Cubs. But that being said, walking into the South Bend Stadium, it was pretty cool because they had like all of these posters of former Cubs players or current Cubs players who had played in a South Bend Cub uniform. So the first one I saw was Ian Happ, who obviously has been on the Cubs for probably the longest out of anyone, I think. I don't know how long that would entail, but definitely he's one of the only players that remained after Chicago blew up their roster in like 2019 or whatever. So he's the veteran, and then who else was there? I saw inside the stadium, I saw the poster of Jason Hayward, if you remember him. He played, I think, left field or maybe center, but he was a Golden Glover outfielder, and I do remember seeing him still in the league this year, but I can't remember where he plays. Who else was on there? I mean, obviously they had like PCA, and then like Kerry Wood, some other retired players. We interrupt this program to tell you that it is one day later. I had to stop the recording, so now it is Tuesday. So you can hear the fans from the heat of the day rotating to try and save us from expiration. But yeah, I just turned the fan off just to make it easier. But yeah, there were a bunch of posters. I didn't look at all of them, take the time to look at all of them, because obviously I was with Ariel, and that would have been unfair to her for me to dork out snapping photographs of every single player I recognize. She is just trying to get through the front entrance. Babe, look. Pete Crow Armstrong. Do you mind taking my picture with this picture of him? I just slowly start forgetting my surroundings and hug the posters one by one. The more manly thing would be to high-five them or fist bump them, so I'll change it to fist bumping them, like, nice work, gentlemen. Nice work. This is the best day of my life meeting you guys. If I told 29-year-old Nate that he was to meet you all here today. Yeah, but we got inside and it was pretty packed. I was surprised. So, the stadium, I think, I would guess, I didn't research, I think it would be seat a little bit more people than Modern Woodmen in Davenport. Regardless, it was pretty packed, and when we got there wasn't like main regular tickets. It was all just tickets for open seats or for the burn or whatever you call it, like the grassy section. So that's what we got, but we still managed to sit in the regular seats, and then only had to move once. Whenever someone would even get close to us, I'd be like, uh-oh, and then like, is this your guys' seats? They'd be like, no. And then finally we were sitting in some people's seats, and so we just moved down like 5 seats. No big deal. Even before I got there, because I wanted to go just to watch the game and see the stadium and all of that, but even before I got there, I kind of had my eyes set on getting a hat. Because if you follow me on social media, it's been a fitted hat year or two. Getting to the point kind of I probably have reached my limit of buying fitted hats. But I wanted to get one from South Bend. It's pretty much like the Cubs hat, but it's got the South Bend Cub on it for the logo. And it's like royal blue or whatever. And so I was going to get one, but then Ariel purchased it for me very kindly because I will be watching her cat while she is out of town for the next week. So that was nice. I'm not really a superstitious person, but I'd be lying if I said I don't notice what hat I'm wearing when a team wins or what hat I'm wearing when a team loses. I'd be lying if I didn't subliminally notice those types of things or pay attention to those types of things. Um, you know, I'm not saying that I do believe in rally caps and good luck wearing rally caps, but I will say I'm nervous to put my hat on backwards when my team is on defense. I will say that. But yeah, we got their first inning and we stayed through the ninth, but it actually went to extra innings. It went to the 10th inning, and then the South Bend Cubs ended up winning in the bottom of the 10th with one walk-off run that I read about later. But we were just there so long, and we hadn't eaten yet and wanted to go do something else. So I'm definitely going to go back there. Had a lot of fun, and unlike the Bandits Field, it wasn't a ton of amusement rides, but the one notable thing that they did have was a giant bouncy house which towered up into the sky, and it was in the shape of a cub. So that was kind of funny to have that looming in the background of some of our pictures. Even a selfie we took, there was that looming giant sinister blow-up cub lurking in the background. But let's move on from that. So I'm not sure if I'm prepared to talk about any books today, at least not in a detailed way. That was a rhyme. But I've got a couple poetry collections that I've been working through, reading them, and I definitely could talk about them in the near future. One of them, so kind of my plan. So, well, I'll just name drop it and then I'll move on. But like a year ago, I had gone to, or this was maybe a year and a half ago, I had gone to a literary conference in the University of Louisville. And one of the main featured writers there was a poet and music critic, primarily jazz writer and jazz critic, who read from some of his work. And he had announced a book coming out that wouldn't come out till maybe a year later. It's a collection of his new and selected poems that wasn't out yet. And it's actually, when I went to this conference, it was one of the first podcasts I had recorded talking about going there. And I have more to say about it. And it's already been 17 minutes for this recording, so I'm not going to jump into it now. But that writer's name is A.B. Spellman. It was one of my favorite reads since the beginning of this year. And I read most of it. I added some of the poetry books I put on there, 2 of them, because there's only 2. With collected works of poetry, I feel like I read them in a way that's different than reading just one collection of poetry or even a novel or whatever. And one of the reasons why I do enjoy collected works or new and selected works or works that are from various eras of a writer's life is that you're allowed to look at different times and different styles, even just one page at a time. Like you could read a poem that a writer wrote in the 70s and then flip forward and then see a book that they wrote in the 90s or 2000s. You can look at that one and you can, like, it's almost, to me, not to sound corny or cliche, but it is like time traveling when you look at these books that are very both organized and widespread. It's not like, I don't mean like books that are just essential poems or just a collection of poems that span a long time. I think you kind of, to get the full effect of it, for me, you do need to have like broken up into like, this is a selection from their 1975 book, and then this is a selection from their 1982 book, and blah, 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 blah. But it is probably one of my favorite types of books is collections of complete poems or selected poems that are multiple books put together, because you are able to maneuver not just front to back, but look at their collections and look at their books in an order that's not chronological. So that's what I always find myself doing. And I think I could probably talk about it more when I talk about this A.B. Spellman book, because I do have a lot to say about it. And then, since I've been attaching the old episodes to the new ones, maybe that will be the best time to finally do the first one. So, yeah, but just the last couple of years, I've read a few selected or complete poems that either do an abridged version or a complete version of someone's poetry catalog, and then obviously I released one myself because I was inspired by it. One of the first ones that really stood out to me was Joyce Mansour. Joyce Mansour. I had read one book of hers, and then they released a new translation through City Lights, and I loved it. And that was pretty abridged because it's translations, and it has like both the translation of French and then English in the book. It is first and foremost I have to like the writing, though, of course, because it's not like it's an uncommon thing to see selected works or collected works with them organized into their books, even if they're abridged. I think Jory Graham had a good one that I think even won the Pulitzer. That was an example that I enjoyed, but sometimes, like, I'm kind of picky about poetry, honestly. Like, if it's too much of, if I don't relate to the speaker or the voice of it, I'm not really going to be able to enjoy it. And there's plenty of older poems or even newer poems that I just don't relate to the voice, and it's a hard book to, like, commit to or to get through it. Especially if you're going to be reading a large edition with multiple collections in it. I wonder what other ones I would like to see or I've heard about that I want to read. Trying to think. I mean, there's a lot of authors that are getting translated now that I'm curious about their work, and I have some of their official translated books, and it would be cool to see some in like a huger volume. I mean, I've always been a fan about Kim Hai-soon's work. I've read 3 of her books, I think, if not 4. Be interesting to see someone do what they did with the Joyce Mansour, where there was like the English next to the original text. Probably the hardest part about doing it with English poets or poets that write publishing something in the United States from a poet who already published in the United States is that a lot of poets are already still working all the time, and even if a poet has like 5 books, 3 books, 7 books, whatever, like when do you find the right time to justify doing selected works or collected works, especially if they're already working on something else they might want to put out? So maybe that's the question. Maybe it would make more sense to have it be a translation or have it be a poet that is already publishing in another country, and then you could have a U.S. country publishing an abridged version or something like that. Anyway, I think that's all I got for today. Next week will be the next episode, the next week, the next day, whatever it is, will be much more literary, I promise. All right. The next episode, I can't remember the date of it. Just looked it up. It is September 9th, 2024, and it is all literary. So there you go. It's replacing what sort of withdrawals I may have created in the first half of this episode, because I talk about Larry McMurtry, who coincidentally, his son, James McMurtry, songwriter, singer-songwriter, longtime road warrior, released a new album that I've only listened to the first 2 songs, so I'm going to listen to more of them. But anyway, Larry McMurtry, the book is Dead Man's Walk, and I believe it is one of 2 episodes that I discuss it. So, there you go. I'll be back soon enough. Goodbye.